Your mind feels like a spinning wheel, thoughts racing, worries piling up, and no way to switch it off. You replay past mistakes, fear future outcomes, and second-guess everything you do. The more you think, the worse it gets. Anxiety tightens its grip, and peace feels impossible. This isn't just mental noise, it's a silent thief, draining your energy, your focus, and your confidence. But what if you could break free? Imagine stepping into a new environment, a class, a meeting, or even a social event. As you walk in, your heart races. Questions flood your mind. Am I doing this right? What if they judge me? What if I fail? Suddenly, you're not present anymore. You're stuck in your head, battling fears that haven't even happened. The truth is, most of these worries are illusions, created by your mind, fueled by overthinking. And here's the secret. When you think less, you regain control. When you speak less, you build presence. When you focus more, you unlock clarity. In this video, I'll show you how Stoic wisdom can silence mental chaos, sharpen your focus, and help you regain calm. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll know exactly how to break free from this mental spiral and live with peace, strength, and purpose. Now let me show you how to take back your mind. 1. Ease your mind and relieve anxiety. There's a man I once knew, let's call him David. On the surface, he had everything figured out. A stable career, a loving family, and a social circle that seemed perfect. But inside, David was drowning. His mind was never still. Thoughts spun like a relentless wheel, worries about his job, doubts about his decisions, endless scenarios of what could go wrong. It wasn't just anxiety, it was exhaustion. The constant noise in his head drained his focus, stole his peace, and left him restless even when things were calm. One evening, David found himself wide awake at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling. His mind replayed a mistake he'd made at work, a minor slip that no one else even remembered. Yet to him, it was all-consuming. What if my boss loses faith in me? What if this ruins my career? His mind kept spiraling, dragging him deeper into fear. This is the trap of overthinking, a mind consumed by what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. We believe thinking more gives us control, but in reality, it only tightens anxiety's grip. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, warned about this centuries ago. Man is disturbed not by things, but by the view he takes of them. David's anxiety wasn't caused by his mistake. It was his endless analysis of it. He kept feeding his fear with imagined disasters that never happened. Here's the truth. Most anxiety isn't rooted in reality. It's born from mental noise, exaggerated fears, false assumptions, and a belief that worrying somehow protects you. But the more you think, the less control you have. David's breakthrough came when he finally asked himself a simple question. Is this thought helping me right now? The answer was no. It was draining him, holding him hostage in a battle he couldn't win. This is what Stoic wisdom teaches us. The power of choosing what deserves your attention. Instead of obsessing over the uncontrollable, Stoics focus on what they can influence. Their actions, their mindset, their response. That night, David tried something different. Each time his mind spiraled, he paused. He asked himself, can I change this right now? If the answer was no, he redirected his focus. Sometimes he'd take a walk. Other times he'd journal his thoughts, emptying his mind onto paper. Slowly, the noise faded. When you stop feeding anxious thoughts, they lose their power. They thrive on attention, and when you withdraw it, they wither. The Stoics believed this practice wasn't just helpful, it was essential for inner peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Anxiety tells you that thinking more will give you control. But the truth is, real control comes from learning when to let go. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers, maybe a new class, a meeting, or a social gathering. You don't know anyone, and suddenly your mind starts spiraling. Am I dressed right? Do I look awkward? What if I say something stupid? The tension builds. But in that moment, you have a choice: to keep feeding those thoughts or to silence them. Instead of spiraling, you can pause, breathe. Ask yourself, are these thoughts helping me right now? Most of the time, they aren't. They're just noise. Noise that makes you hesitant, withdrawn, and anxious. But when you let go, you stop fighting imaginary fears. You become present, focused, and calm. The Stoics mastered this. They trained themselves to think less, not because they ignored problems, but because they knew endless worry achieves nothing. When Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, war, and loss, he didn't waste time drowning in what-ifs. He focused only on what he could control: his thoughts, his actions, his perspective. That's why he remained strong while others fell apart. You can do the same. The next time your mind spirals, stop. Ask yourself, is this thought within my control? If it's not, let it go. Direct your energy toward what you can change: your breath, your posture, your focus. The mind is like a garden. If you stop feeding the weeds, they die. Anxiety thrives when you water it with attention. But when you choose to think less, you break free from its grip. David's life didn't transform overnight, but each time he chose to release his thoughts instead of clinging to them, something changed. His mind felt lighter, his body relaxed. He found himself smiling more, sleeping better, and feeling present in ways he hadn't in years. This isn't magic. It's mental discipline. It's choosing peace over panic, clarity over chaos. And it starts with a single question. Is this thought helping me right now? Because when you think less, you don't lose control, you take it back. 2. Sharpen your focus and boost productivity. Focus is not just about working harder, it's about thinking less. Most people assume that focus is about forcing yourself to concentrate. But focus isn't something you chase, it's something that appears when you remove distractions. Imagine your mind as a room filled with noise. Conversations blur together, random thoughts rush in, and your attention bounces from one idea to the next. No matter how hard you try to focus, the noise pulls you away. That's why forcing focus rarely works. You can't concentrate when your mind is overloaded. The Stoics understood this well. They believed clarity doesn't come from pushing yourself harder, it comes from simplifying what's inside your mind. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." He wasn't just talking about time management, he was pointing to mental clutter. Most people waste enormous energy on thoughts that serve no purpose. Imaginary arguments, regrets about the past, or endless doubts about the future. These thoughts seem harmless, but they rob you of focus, leaving you mentally drained before you've even started your day. Focus isn't about cramming more into your mind, it's about cutting out the noise. The Stoics mastered this by practicing mental minimalism, focusing only on what matters. They treated their thoughts like a garden. Unnecessary worries, regrets, and self-doubt were like weeds. If left unchecked, they would overrun everything. But by identifying those mental weeds early and removing them, they created space for clarity and calm. This mindset shift is crucial. When you stop feeding irrelevant thoughts, your focus sharpens. You stop wasting energy on what you can't control and redirect it toward what you can. Think about the last time you tried to finish an important task, but your mind kept drifting, replaying past mistakes or worrying about what someone might think. Every time your focus wavered, it wasn't because you lacked discipline, it was because your mind was cluttered. To clear that clutter, the Stoics used a powerful method, the practice of mental pruning. Each morning, they would reflect on their thoughts and ask themselves one question: is this worth my energy? If the answer was no, they let it go, like pulling a weed before it spread. This practice may sound simple, but it's transformative. Imagine sitting at your desk, overwhelmed by everything you need to finish. Instead of diving in chaotically, you pause. You ask yourself, what actually matters right now? That moment of clarity resets your mind. Instead of worrying about 5 unfinished tasks, you focus on one, and you give it your full energy. This is what makes focus powerful. It's not just about what you choose to do, but what you decide to ignore. Warren Buffett follows a similar principle. Despite managing billions in investments, he avoids multitasking. Instead, he writes down everything he could focus on and then deliberately eliminates most of it. He keeps only the top few priorities, the things that truly matter, and commits all his energy to those. Buffett's success isn't about working faster, it's about knowing what to cut out. The same principle applies to your everyday life. Think about the conversations you get pulled into. Gossip, complaints, or endless debates that drain your mental energy. Each one may seem small, but together they overwhelm your mind. The more you engage in those distractions, the harder it becomes to focus when it really counts. But when you choose to disengage, When you walk away from pointless arguments or resist the urge to overthink, you reclaim that energy. This is why silence is so powerful. It's not just about speaking less, it's about giving your mind space to focus. The next time your thoughts start racing, when your mind spirals into doubt, worry, or regret, stop. Ask yourself, is this helping me right now? Most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, those thoughts are just mental noise, and the moment you recognize them, you can choose to let them go. Clarity isn't about controlling your mind, it's about removing what clouds it. The Stoics believe that true focus comes from mastering this skill, the ability to quiet the noise and direct your energy toward what truly matters. Imagine how different your day would feel if your mind wasn't burdened by constant overthinking. Imagine starting your mornings without anxiety pulling you in 100 directions. Imagine ending your day feeling calm, clear, and in control. Not because you forced yourself to focus harder, but because you chose to think less. That's the power of mental clarity. It doesn't come from pushing your mind to its limit. It comes from learning when to let go. 3. Embrace inner peace and calmness. There's a moment you never forget, that split second when you're standing in a room full of voices, yet your mind feels like it's drowning in silence. Not peaceful silence, but a deafening emptiness. For Amanda, that moment came during a family gathering. Everyone was chatting, laughing, and sharing stories, but Amanda felt frozen. Her mind raced with everything she wanted to say, to defend herself, to explain why she'd been distant, to confront a relative who had insulted her weeks earlier. Words boiled inside her, and she wanted to spill everything, but she didn't. Instead, she sat quietly, not out of weakness, but out of choice. Something in her mind whispered, "Wait." So she listened. It wasn't easy. The urge to speak, to justify, correct, or retaliate was overwhelming. But as she held back, something unexpected happened. The conversation moved on. The argument she had been bracing for never came. The tension she thought she had to confront simply faded. For the first time in a long while, Amanda felt calm. Most people mistake silence for passivity. They believe that if you don't speak up, you're giving away your power. But the truth is, knowing when not to speak is one of the greatest forms of strength. Epictetus knew this well. He once advised, keep silence for the most part, and speak only when you must, and then briefly. His words weren't just about social etiquette. They were about mastering yourself, resisting the impulse to react out of anger, fear, or ego. Amanda's silence wasn't weakness, it was control. By choosing calmness over confrontation, she protected her peace. And in doing so, she realized something powerful. Silence doesn't just diffuse conflict, it reshapes the way others see you. People who speak less often command more respect. Their words carry weight because they aren't wasted. When you limit your words, you sharpen their impact. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors of all time, is known for this. In high-stakes meetings, he often sits quietly while others argue and dominate the conversation. He waits, observing everything. And when he finally speaks, people stop and listen. His words land with impact, not because they're louder, but because they're deliberate. Buffett's silence isn't just strategy, it's discipline. By resisting the urge to speak for the sake of speaking, he creates space for deeper thinking. This is what calmness does. It makes room for clarity. When your mind is quiet, you think more clearly. When your emotions are steady, you respond with purpose. And when your presence is calm, people trust you more. But calmness isn't something that appears overnight. It's a skill you build through practice. Next time someone criticizes you, resist the impulse to react. Pause. Don't explain yourself right away. Don't rush to prove your point. Instead, give yourself a few seconds to breathe. In that pause, you reclaim control. You stop emotions from steering your response. And as you wait, you'll notice something. The power shifts. The other person, expecting a quick reaction, starts to rethink their words. Silence unsettles people because it forces them to reflect. In that moment, you gain leverage, not through aggression, but through calm composure. The Stoics believed that true strength comes from mastering yourself. They understood that calmness isn't just the absence of chaos, it's the ability to remain steady within chaos. Imagine walking through a storm with an umbrella. The wind roars, rain lashes down, but you stay dry because you carry something that shields you. That's what calmness does. It becomes your mental shield. When you choose to stay calm, You silence the noise inside your head. You stop wasting energy on imaginary arguments or pointless fears. You focus only on what's real, what's now, what's within your control. This shift changes everything. Amanda noticed it first in her conversations. She no longer felt the need to jump in or fill silences with small talk. Her presence felt stronger because her words became rare, and when she did speak, people listened. She also noticed it in her emotions. By choosing silence over instant reactions, she stopped carrying the weight of unnecessary conflict. She stopped replaying arguments in her mind. She stopped letting her ego control her decisions. And most importantly, she found peace, not by fixing everything around her, but by mastering her response to it. The truth is, life will never stop testing you. People will provoke you. Criticism will come, and there will always be moments where your instinct screams for you to fight back, prove a point, or defend your pride. But the strongest response isn't always louder. Sometimes it's quieter. Next time you're caught in a heated moment, remember Amanda's choice. Instead of reacting, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, is this response necessary? Most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, silence says more than words ever could. Because calmness isn't just about staying quiet. It's about knowing when your silence speaks louder than anything you could say. 4. Master emotional control. Emotions are powerful. They can fuel your strength or sabotage your decisions. Imagine standing in a heated conversation. Someone accuses you of something you didn't do. The anger rises instantly. Your pulse quickens, your breath shortens, and your mind races with words you're ready to fire back. In moments like this, most people let emotions take over. They snap, shout, or retaliate, only to regret it later. But losing control isn't strength, it's surrender. The Stoics understood this. They believed that real power comes from mastering your reactions, not by suppressing emotions, but by controlling what follows them. Epictetus taught this best when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." What happens around you is often beyond your control, but your response, that's always your choice. Emotional control isn't about pretending you don't feel anything. It's about pausing long enough to decide whether your emotions deserve a reaction. That pause is where power lies. Imagine someone insults you. Your first instinct may be to defend yourself, to throw words back and prove you're right. But if you resist that impulse, something shifts. Instead of being dragged into their chaos, you stay calm. And in that calmness, you take back control. Emotions push you to react instantly. But instant reactions are rarely wise. When you pause, even for a few seconds, you create space. Space to think, space to breathe, space to choose. The Stoics practiced this daily. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to stay calm in the face of insults, criticism, and conflict. His journal reveals how often he prepared for moments of provocation. He knew these moments were inevitable, but he also knew that his power lay in his response. When you react without thinking, you give others control. But when you pause, you take it back. This isn't about weakness, it's about strength. Think about people who remain calm under pressure. The leaders who speak softly when tempers rise, the individuals who refuse to be baited into pointless arguments. These people aren't emotionless, they're disciplined. They understand that their energy is limited, and wasting it on emotional outbursts only weakens them. Emotional control isn't just about avoiding anger, it's also about resisting fear. Anxiety thrives on emotional overreaction. When your mind jumps to worst-case scenarios, you panic, and panic makes you impulsive, draining your focus and your confidence. The Stoics knew this well. They practiced a technique called premeditatio malorum, the act of mentally preparing for the worst. By calmly visualizing possible setbacks, they trained themselves to face problems with composure. It wasn't about expecting failure. It was about knowing that whatever happens, they could handle it. When you train your mind this way, emotions lose their power over you. Imagine walking into a difficult conversation, a confrontation at work, or a tense family meeting. Instead of bracing for the worst, you remind yourself, I can't control what they say, but I can control how I respond. That mindset changes everything. Instead of feeling anxious, you feel prepared. Instead of reacting emotionally, you respond calmly. And here's the truth. Calmness unsettles people. When someone expects you to lash out and you remain composed, they lose their advantage. People expect reactions: anger, frustration, defensiveness. But when you pause, stay silent, or answer softly, they pause too. And in that pause, you gain control. Emotional control is also about self-respect. When you refuse to let others manipulate your emotions, you show strength, not just to them, but to yourself. Because every time you master your response, you prove that you're stronger than your impulses. That's why emotional control isn't just a skill, it's a form of discipline. Start by practicing the pause. The next time you feel anger rising or anxiety creeping in, stop. Don't react. Don't explain yourself. Don't try to win the argument. Instead, ask yourself, does this deserve my energy? Most of the time it doesn't. Most of the time, walking away or staying silent is the wiser choice. But there's something deeper here. Emotional control isn't just about avoiding outbursts. It's about reclaiming your inner peace. When you refuse to let emotions control you, your mind becomes calmer. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You stop dwelling on past arguments or obsessing over what people think. And as your mind quiets, something remarkable happens. You become stronger. Because true strength isn't loud. It doesn't need to shout or prove itself. True strength is calm, quiet, unshaken. And it starts with a simple decision, the decision to pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this reaction worth my peace? Most of the time the answer is no. 5. Speak with purpose and impact. Words are powerful, but only when they're used wisely. There's a man named Daniel, a manager in a fast-paced corporate office. Daniel was smart, driven, and ambitious. But he had one problem. He couldn't stop talking. In meetings, Daniel always had something to say. He felt the need to prove himself, to be seen as sharp, knowledgeable, and in control. Whenever a debate started, Daniel jumped in. When someone shared an idea, he'd add his own thoughts. He believed that by speaking more, he'd earn respect. But it didn't work. People stopped listening. His words, once thoughtful, became background noise. Even when Daniel had valuable insights, no one paid attention anymore. Then something changed. During a critical strategy meeting, the company's CEO, a man known for his calm presence, remained silent for most of the discussion. Executives debated fiercely, interrupting one another, pushing their points. But the CEO just listened. He watched, he waited. And when he finally spoke, everyone stopped. His words were clear, simple, and deliberate. No one challenged him, no one argued. Because when someone speaks less, their words carry weight. Daniel noticed this, and that day he made a choice to change. At the next meeting, Daniel held back. He stayed silent while others filled the air with words. He resisted the urge to jump in, and when he finally spoke, people turned to listen. His words were clear, sharp, and focused. No extra fluff, just what mattered. And suddenly everything changed. Daniel didn't need to fight to be heard anymore, because he had learned something crucial. The less you speak, the more impact your words have. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." To the Stoics, speaking less wasn't about silence. It was about precision. They believed that words should be used like a tool, deliberate, effective, and purposeful. When you speak too much, you dilute your message. People stop paying attention. But when you choose your words carefully, they hit harder. That's why the most powerful communicators, leaders, thinkers, and those who command respect, know when to hold back. They know that silence isn't weakness, it's control. Silence shows you're not desperate for attention. It shows you're thinking before you speak. And when you finally say something, people listen, because they know it matters. But there's another side to this. Speaking less doesn't just make others respect you. It makes you stronger. When you resist the urge to talk, you build discipline. You learn to sit with discomfort instead of filling it with noise. You gain mental clarity because your mind isn't constantly searching for something to say. The Stoics called this practice measured speech. Speaking only when your words serve a purpose. Marcus Aurelius practiced this relentlessly. As Emperor of Rome, he faced constant pressure, political debates, public criticism, and endless demands. But he knew that reacting to everything would only drain his energy. Instead, he stayed calm. He observed. He let others speak. And when he did respond, his words were precise and powerful. That's what true composure looks like. The ability to stay quiet even when your ego begs you to prove yourself. When you practice this, you gain an advantage. In heated arguments, silence disarms people. They expect anger, confrontation, or defensiveness, but when you remain calm, they lose their power. In social situations, silence makes you mysterious. People are drawn to those who speak rarely, but with purpose. And in moments of stress, silence becomes your shield, a way to think clearly before acting. But here's the challenge. Staying silent isn't easy. The urge to speak is powerful. Your mind pushes you to defend, explain, or impress. That's why you must train yourself to resist. The next time you feel that impulse, that moment when you're about to interrupt or over-explain, stop. Ask yourself, is this necessary? Most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, silence is the wiser choice. Because when you speak only when it matters, your words gain strength. People respect those who don't waste their breath. They remember those who speak with purpose. And in a world that's always shouting, the quietest voice is often the one that's heard the most. 6. Earn respect through composure. Respect isn't demanded, it's earned. And often, it's earned in silence. Most people assume respect comes from being the loudest in the room, the one who talks the most, asserts their opinions, and dominates conversations. But that's not how respect is built. True respect comes from control, the ability to stay calm when others lose theirs. When someone talks too much, their words lose weight. The more they explain, justify, or overreact, the less impact they have. People stop listening, not because they disagree, but because they sense insecurity beneath the noise. Composure tells a different story. It signals confidence, the kind that doesn't need to be proved. When you can sit quietly, unshaken by criticism or provocation, people notice. They sense strength, not in what you say, but in what you choose not to say. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius, a man surrounded by chaos, betrayal, and endless pressures, understood that composure was power. He knew that reacting to everything would drain him, mentally, emotionally, and physically. So instead, he mastered the art of restraint. He faced criticism without defending himself. He encountered anger without feeding it. He understood that the strongest response isn't always louder. Sometimes it's quieter. This isn't passivity, it's strategy. When you remain calm in the face of conflict, you shift the balance of power. While others lose control, you remain grounded. And that stability commands respect. There's a reason why people are drawn to those who speak less but with precision. They don't waste their words, they don't rush to react. And because of that, their presence feels stronger. Their silence carries weight. But composure is more than just silence. It's also about emotional control. People often believe they need to prove a point when challenged, to fight back in the moment to defend their pride. But that instinct is often just ego disguised as courage. Real courage is learning when to disengage. Walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. The Stoics practiced this by focusing only on what they could control. They refused to be consumed by insults, rumors, or others' opinions. Epictetus reminded his students that what others say or think is beyond their power, but their response is not. That's the key. Composure isn't about ignoring reality. It's about knowing what deserves your energy. Imagine someone insults you. Your first instinct might be to defend yourself, to fight back. But pause for a moment. Ask yourself, does this change anything? Most of the time it doesn't. Arguing rarely makes people respect you. Explaining yourself endlessly doesn't earn admiration. And reacting emotionally doesn't prove your strength. It reveals your weakness. When you respond with calmness instead, a simple nod, a slight smile, or even silence, you show you're in control. And control is powerful. People respect those who don't let emotions hijack their actions. They trust those who don't react impulsively. Because composure signals something rare, inner stability. And when you practice this, something remarkable happens. You become harder to manipulate. Those who control their emotions are nearly impossible to provoke. Criticism doesn't shake them, insults don't wound them. Even failure can't defeat them, because they understand one truth. No event, no insult, no setback can control them unless they allow it to. This mindset doesn't just earn respect from others, it builds self-respect. Each time you resist the urge to react, you reinforce your inner strength. Each time you stay calm when tempted to lash out, You remind yourself that you are stronger than your impulses. But composure takes practice. The next time you feel anger rising, when someone frustrates you, criticizes you, or tries to provoke you, pause. Don't speak. Don't react. Just breathe. That pause changes everything. In those few seconds, you reclaim control. You stop letting emotions dictate your actions. You shift from reacting to responding. And that response, calm and deliberate, carries far more power than any heated reply ever could. Because the truth is, respect doesn't come from proving yourself louder. It comes from proving you're stronger. Stronger than anger, stronger than insecurity, stronger than the need to always have the last word. When you master that, when you learn to stay calm when others can't, you stand out. Not because you shout the loudest, but because your silence says everything they need to know. You're confident, you're grounded, and you know that your strength doesn't need to be explained. It's already understood. 7. Discover a simpler, more fulfilling life. Simplicity isn't about owning less, it's about needing less. In a world that glorifies excess, more achievements, more possessions, more attention, people often confuse complexity with success. They chase after endless goals, convinced that happiness lies just beyond the next accomplishment. But no matter how much they gain, satisfaction never lasts. The reason is simple. Clutter, both mental and emotional, suffocates peace. We fill our minds with imaginary fears, replaying mistakes and worrying about what others think. We overcommit, saying yes to everything to avoid conflict. We hoard emotional baggage, grudges, regrets, insecurities, convinced that holding on will somehow give us control. But instead, it drains us. The Stoics understood this well. They believed that true strength comes not from adding more, but from letting go of what doesn't serve you. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." He wasn't just talking about material things, he was talking about mental clarity. The more you crave, the more restless you become. When you simplify your mind, when you stop clinging to distractions, empty pursuits, or imagined fears, you free yourself from anxiety. Imagine walking through life carrying a heavy backpack. Inside it are all the worries you've been holding on to. Regrets about the past, fears about the future, the endless need to impress others. Each step feels heavier, yet you refuse to let go. Now imagine setting that bag down. Suddenly, you feel lighter, freer, stronger. That's what simplicity offers. Not less, but more of what matters. The Stoics believe that simplicity is the path to true fulfillment. Not by shrinking your life, but by focusing your energy where it counts. Marcus Aurelius practiced this every day. As Emperor of Rome, he faced constant demands, political pressure, public criticism, and personal challenges. Yet he kept his mind calm by narrowing his focus. He refused to waste energy on things beyond his control. He didn't dwell on rumors or chase approval. Instead, he focused only on what mattered: his actions, his values, and his inner peace. That mindset gave him clarity. It allowed him to lead with purpose, even when everything around him seemed chaotic. Simplicity isn't passive, it's powerful. It's the courage to say no when something doesn't align with your values. It's the discipline to detach from people, habits, or distractions that drain your mental peace. But simplicity doesn't happen by accident. It requires conscious choice. Start by asking yourself, what's weighing me down? It could be a toxic relationship that drains your energy, a habit that no longer serves you, a mental loop, replaying past mistakes, or obsessing over things you can't control. Whatever it is, recognize it, then let it go. Simplifying your mind isn't about ignoring problems, it's about learning what deserves your attention. When you stop overthinking, you see things more clearly. When you cut away unnecessary commitments, you reclaim your time. When you focus only on what you can control, you regain power over your life. And here's the truth: simplicity makes you stronger. People often believe that carrying stress shows dedication, that multitasking proves competence, that being busy means being important. But none of those things reflect true strength. Real strength is knowing what to ignore. It's the ability to say, this isn't worth my energy. It's having the discipline to choose peace over conflict, calm over chaos, and clarity over noise. And when you do that, when you stop filling your mind with clutter, you create space. Space for better ideas, for deeper connections, for the things that genuinely fulfill you. The Stoics believed that a simpler life wasn't just easier, it was richer. They knew that peace isn't found in chasing more, it's found in needing less. The modern world tells you to chase everything: more success, more approval, more attention. But the Stoics remind us that true fulfillment comes when you stop chasing. When you step back from the noise, life opens up. You stop feeling pressured to explain yourself. You stop wasting energy on conflicts that don't matter. You stop giving your time to people who drain you. Instead, you focus on your goals, your values, and your inner calm. That's the power of simplicity. It's not just about clearing your space, it's about clearing your mind. And when your mind is clear, you make better decisions. You stop reacting impulsively. You stop letting emotions dictate your actions. You become calm, composed, and grounded, not because your life is perfect, but because you've learned what to ignore. Simplicity is strength. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop. Stop overthinking, stop overreacting, stop overcommitting, and trust that peace comes from letting go. Because in the end, life isn't about how much you carry, it's about how much you're willing to put down. Life is noisy. Your mind is constantly bombarded with distractions, doubts, and demands. But here's the truth. Peace doesn't come from controlling everything around you. It comes from mastering yourself. When you learn to think less, you silence the mental noise that fuels anxiety. You stop wasting energy on thoughts you can't control and focus only on what truly matters. When you choose to speak less, your words gain weight. People start listening, not because you're louder, but because you've learned the power of restraint. When you learn to focus more, your mind sharpens. You stop chasing trivial concerns and start dedicating your energy to meaningful goals. And when you develop emotional control, you become unshakable. Anger, frustration, and fear lose their grip because you've trained yourself to pause, reflect, and respond with intention. These aren't just ideas. They're practical skills you can build every day. Start by asking yourself simple questions. Is this thought helping me? Does this argument deserve my energy? Is this distraction worth my time? Most of the time, the answer is no. And each time you choose to let go of needless worries, pointless debates, or impulsive reactions, you reclaim your power. Don't expect instant results. Mastery calmness takes practice. But with patience and consistency, you'll become stronger, mentally sharper, emotionally grounded, and far more at peace. Now it's your turn. What's one thought, one habit, or one fear that's been holding you back? Share your experience in the comments. Your story may inspire someone else to break free from the mental noise and find calm within the chaos.